Hello, hello, fellow humans, fellow beings, fellow earthlings. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Just back on Facebook for a little video, little chat, share some thoughts about some things that's going around in this little round sphere up here. So I wanted to come on today and just talk about culture, ethnicity, patriotism, nationalism, all of these isms. And what are they? What are these things, these isms? What they are in reality is ways in which we separate ourselves. We are all the same. We are all human beings on this planet, but we create these dividing lines so that we may stand apart and see ourselves as different and look at this as other. But what do we achieve by that? What we achieve is just separating ourselves, making ourselves feel more lonely. We achieve different groups that are supposedly different and apart, but in actuality they are all one, but they've just given themselves this illusion of separation. And this is what is the cause of the majority of the problems. Hi Marie, how you doing? This is what the majority of the problems in the world are now. It's because of not understanding others who have separated themselves into groups because of where they were born, because of the religion they were given when they were born, if they chose the religion or not, what city they were born in. It's sometimes what area of a city you were born in, which country, what class, if it's in the if we're talking about money, different socio-economic levels and classes. So we're born into these things in some cases, and again, on a soul level, we choose where we fall in that. We choose that for growth and evolution. But while we're here, our mission is to wake up to the reality that all of those things are created. They're separating. They are not reality. They're not what we are. Every one of us bleeds the same blood inside. Every one of us has skin and bones. All these other things, these imaginary lines that we divide the earth up and call countries, they don't exist. They're imaginary lines, and all of these things are just separating us and dividing us and causing us to have fear for ourselves against these others. And all of it is just bullshit, plain bullshit. And I try to, as much as possible, stay away from negativity and fear and a lot of the things that are on social media that are negative and really designed to separate and to engender fear. But because obviously we've all got wide networks, sometimes it's hard to avoid what is on there. And I'm the same, and I've over time you see these things come up. People are sharing things, so you're aware. I don't watch news, I don't do any of that, but you're aware of things that's going on. But when you actually step outside of that, for most of the time, you get to see patterns, you get to see what is really going on. You're not constantly bombarded by the fear, constantly bombarded by agendas that people are pushing to separate people. And it's just, when you step outside of that, you really see that those things are not real. What we are born into, we're born into a religion, we're born into a race, we're born into these things by choice on a soul level. But once we're here, then we have choices in what way we deal with that, what way we respond to the world. Hi Connor, how you doing? Thanks a million. Oh, nearly wrecked the place there. So yeah, we have choices, and everything I talk about here, I won't talk about things that's outside of my experience. So I can talk about personal experience of how I can come to these conclusions, because I came from a place where this is very prevalent. So I was born in Northern Ireland, born into a Catholic community, so born in a small town where the majority of people were Catholic. And in Northern Ireland, from that very early age, we are separated from, so the main dividing line in Northern Ireland is Catholic and Protestant. So from birth, we're born into a Catholic family. We go to a Catholic church to get baptized. We go to a Catholic only school. Everything is down that line of separation. And the town that I lived in was very much a Catholic area, so there was very little mixing or interactions with Protestant people, and that was just ingrained. It was from the age of this separation, and I could say in my whole life, right up until I can probably until we get to secondary school, so maybe 11, 12 years old, we didn't have any interactions with the other side, these different people. Hey Yas, my friend, how you doing? So we didn't have interactions with these supposedly different people, Protestants. And then when we were watching the news, obviously it was the later end of the Troubles. Every day on the news we were seeing Catholic versus Protestant, people getting killed, bombs going off, all of these things, tit for tat, murders, tit for tat, just revenge, and just a constant cycle. So we had it constantly. And I can say personally that my parents did not instill any bigotry or any bias in this Catholic Protestant divide, but the culture, this culture that we call, this is my culture, this mass consciousness that we had in the area I lived and where we were, it was always, you automatically fell into that category of us versus them. And I can remember, I'll be very honest, I can remember watching on the news, and there would be a story of a Catholic has been killed, and then a story of a Protestant had been killed. And hey Carla, and I can remember, because of my conditioning, because of the culture, that I can remember having less compassion for a Protestant being killed than a Catholic being killed. And how crazy is that? That is just absolutely insane. But that was the culture that we grew up on, and it's us versus them. And what it is complete ignorance, because we went to a Catholic school, we went to Catholic church, we didn't interact, we didn't have the connection. So we had fear of these other people because of the things that we seen on the news. And it's absolutely, obviously those troubles were going on, but if we looked at the whole, that's a minority of people that were involved in that, and it's unfortunate events that it came to, and it's the dividing lines were down the line of religion, and obviously none of it was to do with any religion. All religions at their base, and I mean all religions at their base, are rooted in love. But all religions are used, and more importantly, all religions are distorted to suit the interests of a minority. And every single religion teaches the same thing: loving your neighbor. And all of those, and whatever stories you hear about this religion, that religion, or those group of people do this and that in the name of their religion, if any of those actions are outside of love, those are not the actions of any religion. And anyone that tries to claim that that's the case, they are misinformed, and they are using that as an agenda for them. So going back to my personal experience, at early age growing up, as I said, we were always separated. We had fear of these supposedly different people. And then getting towards my teenage years, I got a bit rebellious, and as you do, and I started to try and rebel against everything. So I rebelled against religion firstly, because I could see that it wasn't, it didn't resonate with me. I wouldn't have used that word at the time, but at that time I just knew there's something. I could see lots of things where, from personal experience, the Catholic religion was talking about certain things, and then there was certain things going on in the Catholic religion that were completely the opposite of what they said. Hi, Carla. Thank you. I'm happy you're joining in, Sharon. So, as I say, so we had this belief, and so I started to rebel, and I rebelled firstly against the religion because of various reasons. I don't really need to go into, but so we had various ways of. Hi, Camilla. Good morning. Send us some. I will send it all your way. I'm sending you all the light. So as I rebelled against that, then moving forward, it was towards my later teens. There still very much was this separation in Northern Ireland as normal, where there were certain places where Catholic and Protestants would get together, and they didn't have, and there wasn't problems. And the one thing that led me to it, that was a beautiful way that people got together in Northern Ireland, was club culture. And there was a plate, we got into a room, there was house music, and everyone got together and they didn't care. And there were still some elements of this separation, but a lot of it honestly could have been fueled by some party drugs and narcotics, but whatever your views about that, it's irrelevant at that time, and maybe to some extent still today. It brings people together without judgment, and I'm not promoting the use of those or whatever, but what I'm saying is, in Northern Ireland, that brought people together in club culture when that began, and really started to kick off in the 90s. People got together in places and they didn't care who you were or what you were. You just went and you danced and you had fun, and then you left, and then you went back into the separation again. And in Northern Ireland, you have cities that are divided, like where I'm from originally. Derry is divided, and it's even divided in name. So it's divided by a river, and there's one side is Catholic, one side is Protestant, and one side calls Londonderry, the other side calls it Derry. So there's all these separations in language, separation in school, separation, and all of these are an illusion. All of these are not real. All of these are designed for control of people, to keep you in fear of other people that you don't understand. And that is really what it's down to. And the thing is, you have a choice. You have a choice whether to buy into that. And as I said, I was automatically I fell into it like anyone was, because it's mass consciousness. I remember when I think about it now, it's amazing to me that I would feel less compassion for one person dying than another person dying. But we were conditioned to be that way, and I say that was not from my family in any way. That was completely from the culture of growing up in separation. And so in my teens, club culture obviously brought us together with people, and that was an amazing thing. And music brings people together, and you get rid of all that rubbish. But then part of my rebellious nature, then towards the end of my teens, I think, or maybe my early 20s, then I fell in love with a Protestant girl. And at this time, this was I would say it was my first love. And at that time, I was still living in this polarized society where it's us versus them. And then I fallen in love with this Protestant girl, where she came from a very polarized society as well, on the opposite end. And that was very interesting and a huge challenge. But the love between us, it was a very young, and there was lots of other, I wouldn't say it's the love in relationships that I have now, but that's irrelevant because it's just part of the journey. But so then, this was the first time that I had a close and real connection with someone that was apparently different, this other culture, which I come to realize that there's no difference. There was just different ways of doing things, because they were born in habits, and your society did things in certain ways. And so that really started to open my eyes up, and then going through my 20s, more and more things opened up. But I can say it wasn't until my late 20s that I really got the awakening that I needed, and that awakening came from actually leaving Ireland, from getting outside of that bubble of the news, of the us versus them, of the fear, all of those things. And I went to Australia in 2008, and that was the first time that I had lived outside of Ireland. And I just encourage everyone, at no matter what stage of life that you are, is to get out of your culture for whatever, it could be a short period, a long period, but get out of your cultural norm. Go meet other people, go meet other religions, other races, all these isms, all this made up names to divide groups, and go and actually meet people and talk to them and find out what they are and where they come from and how they are. And don't stereotype people and drop them in a box that the news gives you, or that your cultural bias gives you. So moving to Australia gave me that international, because when I went there, obviously the culture in Australia is not hugely different to our own, but what it did do was take me from a small town to a big city that was maybe, I don't know, I lived in Brisbane, I'm not sure how many, but like a much bigger area, catchment area of where I was used to live. So I met different cultures, different people, and that really opened my eyes. And it was when I got there, I started to really see this conditioning that I had from childhood of separation and fear. And even at that time it had mellowed a lot, and I would never have openly shared any of these things. And I'm being open and honest now, because I know people that have grown up in those cultures like me, it's there, and we would never share that it's in there, because it's not openly shared. But something in that culture and that fear keeps it in there. So when I went to Australia, I was able to meet all these different people. And the other thing with the Northern Ireland thing was always the separation. It wasn't just the Catholic and Protestants. Then there was the British Army was on the streets, so we always had fear of British and English people. So that was another element as well. And we felt very, you see, even when I'm saying that, I'm saying we felt. So there, I'm trying to give this conversation in a balanced way, but my language, I'm dropping back into that we versus them. So I have to stop myself now and really pay attention to how I word this, because I can fall back into that easily. So there's this within that culture, if you identified as Irish, and that wasn't always Catholic, but Irish Catholic, and then there was the other side, the British and the English. So we grew with a distrust and a fear of British or English people. So going to Australia, then I started to meet more British and English people, and they were amazing, and they were the same as me, and we just had beautiful experiences, and it just was cutting away those layers. And then when I was leaving Australia, I was coming back to Ireland, and I started to see the things that were happening there, and they were still going on, and I could see it from a completely different point of view. And I was like, this is just absolute nuts. It's like doesn't make any sense. It's a conditioning, it's a fear that's not based on any reality. That yes, there's a reality of the violence that happened in all conflicts. Yes, there is that reality, but what's leading to that reality and what's leading to that fear is the separation and the thoughts of that those others, they are different from me, or that they're out to get me, or whatever. And I saw that in a completely different light. And so I would really encourage anyone, if you have the opportunity to travel and meet different cultures, and go see that these other people are not any different from you. They are the same. We are one. We are one essence. We bleed the same blood. We have the same skin. We breathe the same air. All of the other things are invented. They're put out there to keep us divided. So the term divide and conquer is exactly what is going on in all cultures around the world. But the point that's brought it up for me now is, So later in my life, obviously the main theme now, that if you come in if you're in a Western world, or maybe probably a lot of the world, we have this theme of, I would say it's Islamophobia is what you would call it, and it's this created, absolutely fabricated storyline that begun sometime before 2001, where this agenda of fear and these acts and these wars and all of these things have generated the world versus Muslims, or the world versus Islam. And this is all an agenda of separation and all an agenda of fear, and it is not reality. So later in my life, I was very blessed as I traveled and lived. I lived in the UK and I lived in other places, but the one that is relevant to this is most recently I lived in Dubai, and I had the chance to meet many Muslim people, and I can say that I met and I have some friends that will be friends for life, and I can say that they were the most kind, loving, beautiful people that I have ever met, and I can say that from my heart. And I can say that before that I didn't have, for whatever reason, I didn't have the chance to meet people of that background of faith, and then when I moved there I had a lot of chance to meet people like that. And that at that stage, to be honest, I didn't have the same biases about any religion or race or color or creed or anything like that. But what this did was give me an opportunity to meet more and find out more about that culture and about the realities of the religion. And there's lots of things that people don't know about Islam, because they take their version of Islam is from Fox News or BBC, and what they know about Islam is zero. What they give you is what they want to give you to put you in fear. So it's just I felt like I had to come on here today to really to talk about this, and because there has to be a break in that. As I say, I don't watch news, I don't get involved in those fearful conversations and links, and if people are sharing things that are very much based in fear and negativity, I will be from here on unfollowing, unfriending, and that is just a choice that I choose to focus on love and focus on positivity and focus on helping people and getting rid of separation and bringing people back together. And it's just very clear and easy for me to see this separation and this agenda of creating fear, because there are certain elements of our society which profit, which their agenda is furthered by our fear of an other, and that could be any other, and it just happens to be this one now is chosen as a religion. And if I take it back to personal experience, because I can talk about outside experience, but we have to take it back to ourselves, and this is always my point. You don't take what I say as gospel. You find that out for your own experience. If you're going to judge a whole race or a class or a religion of people, are you basing that on individuals or groups of individuals that you've met and spent time with and have actually interacted with, or are you basing that on something that you've read, something you've heard on the news, something that is quite clearly designed for you to fear that person and victimize those people? Are you doing that, or are you taking it from your own experience? So that's just a question to have for yourself, but what I can take it back to personal experience. So the English-Irish thing, we can go back to the time, it would have been at my early age, but more so that my father's generation, I would say. So in the 70s and 80s, lots of Irish men predominantly would have had to go to England for work, because there wasn't work in Ireland, and this still goes on today. But at that time, if we talk in English-Irish terms, it was a smaller area, but at that time then, this term terrorism has been around for a long time, and terrorism, I would like to talk about that a bit later, what terrorism actually is. But at that time, Irish terrorism, English people would have been within full fear of Irish terrorism because of events that happened in Britain. There had bombs gone up through this conflict, so they would have had a fear of Irish people, and there's lots of stories of how that manifested in British towns, but it didn't stop. Irish people kept going because of necessity. But in that consciousness of British people at that time, because of the news and because of a very bipartisan coverage of what was happening, I can see this, and I'm not taking sides at this stage, I'm seeing this from stepping back, that there was a very much one-sided, what was reported was very much one-sided, because obviously the British were at war with the IRA, which was one side of that conflict. So British people were understandably in fear of Irish people. So any Irish person that went to England at that time would have been demonized, would have been seen as a threat, and that's any, whether they had something to do with this or not, or whether they were there for their livelihood. So that's an example from our personal experience in that I can know of people, maybe family members or that would have had that feeling, and then there's that distrust. Now you fast forward to this time, now that has transformed on a global scale, and it's happened all through the years, but now that's transformed on a global scale to this fear of Islamophobia, this fear of a whole religion of something like a billion people. And I'm not trying to stick my head in the sand and say that there aren't things that are going on that are terrible, but there are, and they're all over the world, and they are all based in fear, and they are not one group of people or religion or race or that are perpetrating all this on a victim. But if you look at what's going on now, you will see a complete bias or a selective sympathy, I think is the easiest way to put it, so that